Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Pervasive Media Studio lunchtime talk. These talks are live every Friday at 1 p.m, both here in the building and live online. Hello, online people. So whether you're in Bristol or far away, you can join in the conversation. Every Friday, we throw open the doors of the Pervasive Media Studio for Open Studio Friday, where we offer you the chance to spend time in the space by hot desking alongside our residents and staff from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. So is anyone here new to the studio today? Hey, welcome. So in case you didn't know, the Pervasive Media Studio is a diverse and collaborative community exploring creativity and technology with everything from comedy to coding and product development to performance art. It's a partnership between Watershed, UE Bristol and the University of Bristol and funded by Arts Council England. We offer studio space, desk space, meeting rooms, events and opportunities to our residents as part of the spirit of generosity and mutual exchange. And we're a space for people to take risks with embryonic ideas and to make time for collaboration. Feel free to move around, make a cup of tea or grab a glass of water from the kitchen, which is just behind you over there. We have a quiet space just to my left next to this space. So if you need to take a break at any point, feel free to hop in there. Fire exits are at either end of the studio and one of the studio team, probably myself or Joe or Celia, will direct you to them. Accessible toilets and baby change can be found in the corridor just next to the kitchen. There is a Q&A at the end of the talk, so for those of you watching online, I have a microphone in here that I'm going to pass around to all of you so they can hear you. And if you have any questions online, drop them in the chat and Celia will read them out for you. You can get news on all future talks by heading to watershed.co.uk/studio, Pervasive Media Studio at mastodon.social on Mastodon, pmstudiouk.bsky.social on Blue Sky, that is a long link, or Pervasive Media Studio on Instagram. So our speaker for today is Frazer Meakin, who is one of our studio residents. Frazer is a creative professional and resident of the studio with a background in theatre and film. With over a decade of experience as a facilitator and educator, he works passionately with young people to develop skills for careers in creative technologies, informed by his 10 months research fellowship with the Watershed Talent Development Team and MyWorld. Today, Frazer is going to talk to us about the need for collaboration to redefine education and career development for a dynamic workforce for creative technology and the wider cultural sector. So I'll pass over to Frazer if you're ready.
Hello. Hello, everyone. I'm Frazer. Hello to everyone online, pronouns he, him. I'm going to talk to you today about my research fellowship that I completed in September and some of the findings from that. The talk will consist of me talking about my fellowship and the structure I took throughout the research, and also the findings and now how we can move forward as a sector and actually as people as a whole to support our young people into a diverse and wonderful career in the creative technology industry. So a bit about me. I'm a director and movement director, working across theatre and film. I'm a resident here, and I love a challenge. I have worked in education for over 10 years in both formal and informal education settings, whether that be as a facilitator or actually working in schools. I was a cover supervisor, so supply teacher, and I've not got too many scars from being a supply teacher. I then very quickly got institutionalized and became lead cover supervisor, so I managed all the staff absence and all the supply provision in a city secondary school, and then I became a head of year. So I've been very much at the front line in education in Bristol City. While doing that work, I realised very quickly that the system was broken in terms of how it was supporting young people to basically do what they would like to do and kind of encourage creativity and understand the skills that they need to actually work as probably we all work, whether you're working in a cultural sector or whether you're in a corporate sector, in a way that is collaborative and where you have to think outside the box. A recent World Economic Forum report found that while 85 million jobs may be displaced by automation by 2025, it's a bit scary now we're here, 97 million new roles will emerge, yet many young people remain unemployed due to skills mismatches. I was really passionate about this fellowship because it was bringing my creative world in alongside my education experience. So the structure of the work, also, yes, a little bit more about the landscape, also saying that obviously that core and transferable skills are at the heart of the workforce for the future, that there's going to be a huge skills kind of revamp in terms of what employers are looking for. I will touch upon later, though, that we're saying this, and this isn't new. We've been talking about core and transferable skills for so long. However, when you're looking at job descriptions, there needs to be some reform there, because they simply don't align, and they certainly don't align to allow for emerging artists or emerging people to come into whatever workforce they're going into. Also, no surprise that there's a decline in arts GCSEs, which comes with the huge arts cuts that have been over the last 10 years, if not longer. Although technology subjects fare slightly better, and there's certainly across work that I've been doing in Bristol schools, there is a push in IT in terms of understanding digital literacy, but actually in terms of the take-up into, say, GCSE subjects and post-16 subjects, there is also a general decline, with some schools not even teaching it, or having another teacher that isn't a subject specialist doing those subjects. So when I started the piece of work, I broke it down into 4 phases. I needed to understand the sector to begin with, actually talk to organisations, talk to freelancers, SMEs working in the sector. How did they get there? Was there a particular route? Think about what it means for now in terms of post-16 study and post-18 study. Understand actually what the real strain is on the education system, and understand actually what the voice was of young people. Phase 2, from my learnings, I wanted to go into an Inspire strand and actually work directly with young people to make hands-on with some technology, thinking about how they could work in this industry and what it means for them, thinking about the skills that they do have. I'm sure we all know young people, and I say that they are the best problem solvers that I know. In a classroom, they will find a way to have the AirPods still in their ear while still in a lesson. They will find a way. They will think outside of the box to get out of a certain situation, or to achieve the thing that they're looking to achieve, even if that is to get out of a detention. Phase 3 was about create. And create is about the young people being hands-on and doing something that they are proud of. And phase 4 was looking beyond. How, after the fellowship, can I have legacy in the work that I am doing, so that it isn't just something that finishes or finished in September, and then it means nothing goes any further, that we don't enact any change, because otherwise the work is completely pointless. There are what I'm going to say 4 stakeholders. There's the sector, there's the educational institutions, and actually there's the parents. They are the main triangle with the young people in the middle. However, they're not connected. And that is where things are going wrong. We need all 3 of them to be on side to support the young people. They are the voice that's going to inspire them. They are the people that are going to actually allow them to feel that they can achieve what they want to achieve. So I then set up a workshop pipeline which aimed to do just that. Understand them, allow them to feel inspired, and then look beyond. The first workshop was inside, in schools themselves, and I went to over 10 schools, including an alternative provision, which is a school where it's young people that can't handle mainstream education. That could be for behavioural needs. It could be for other situations and home needs as well. And also special SEND schools, which is for special educational needs. And I went into 2 of those schools. And again, that could be for social and emotional needs. That could also be due to other needs such as high-end autism or other means that they cannot access mainstream education. In those schools, we looked at what is creative tech. Very quickly, I realised that no one understands what creative tech is, and I think even if you go somewhere like the PM studio and go around this space, everyone's definition will be totally different. It might be very linked to the technology side of things. It might be about the creative side of things. It might be, actually, it's about finding solutions. And so that is a woolly area that immediately was the first stumbling block. Young people and schools, so not understanding what it is. And if the industry can't define what it is, how can we then get young people on side? How can we also get schools on side who are bombarded with loads of emails each day, and they're trying to sift through actually what opportunity is best? It was all about thinking about those core and transferable skills, and the fact there are a range of jobs and that you do not need to be able to do it all. And the sector itself is full of experts, but it's also full of collaboration. And that's what Workshop 1 was all about. They made paper prototypes of wearable musical instruments, which use conductive paint to basically allow the conduct electricity to the circuit board, which then allowed them to play different tunes. I say tunes, notes. But in that, they had to design it. They had to make, some people were all about the building, some people were about the designing, some people all about the presenting. So it was all about trying to say, you don't have to do everything, but use your skills and use what you would like to excel at, or push yourself. And another realization very quickly was that young people do not know how to talk about these skills. They don't know they have these skills because they're not kind of integrated in a way that is kind of verbalized within the mainstream education system. Again, surprise to surprise, it's all about kind of the exams and very much strict curricular and subject areas. They don't often have that cross-curricular aspect that is really needed. Anyway, moving on to phase 2. Phase 2 was all about bringing young people here into Watershed, getting some talks by some experts, and getting some hands on some tech, and basically inspiring them to think this is a bigger thing than what you touched upon before. And then phase 3, all about the future, engaging with the professionals, engaging with parents, and actually, it's okay for an organisation like Watershed to be able to do this work, but also like trying to equip SMEs and freelancers with the skills to be able to go and do this work themselves. So that was also a really important part of phase 3. Oh. I got excited. So some feedback from teacher. Although the sector and the title creative tech felt distant to young people, interacting with technology and discussing the groundbreaking work happening here in the west of England sparked a buzz that was hard to ignore. I think that's something that's really important. They don't get tangible things that are for the region as well. And to do work in the school, these are the 3 key points that I brought out. Relevance. They need to know how it's going to fit into the current curriculum, even if that is ideas around design, even if it's the skills that they need for certain coursework or for certain aspects of, it can be wider than just they are learning about a certain scientific person. That made no sense, but you knew what I mean. And also why that school, they want to know why you want to go to them, and support what resources and training are available to help them deliver the content in the future. And also, how will this benefit their students, both short-term and long-term? These are some takeaways from what the young people said, which again, all about them to then take forward into phase 2. Importantly, they actually, what they need, they want more. There's a real hunger for more. They want things that are practical, and they want to have an experience that they can't get in school. Phase 2. For phase 2, I wasn't going to do that alone because, as you'll feel at the end of this talk, my voice is really boring. So I brought on a range of people to help me. So Luxa Turner came in and did a talk, who are a VFX company. Ardman, an amazing director and animator Gavin Strange came and gave an extremely inspirational talk. And then Pika, who have done some work here in Watershed, and Charlie Hooper-Williams, they actually came on board to support with a special day that was for the special educational schools as well. So we made sure that it was tailored for them. Sorry. Don't worry, I'll just stop dancing or something. Okay, a look to the future. So we ended up after phase 2. The dream was to have a phase 3 that was where they would design and build something. However, due to time constraints and actually within the schools, there were a lot of stumbling blocks to even get them here. Budget constraints. It costs £150 per teacher to leave the site for a day to come on a trip. And so you can offer a trip out to young people, but it still costs the school money. Obviously, there's the travel getting here, and budgets are so tight that we had schools drop out the day before. We even had one that tried to drop out on the day until we were like, we're sending a coach. So it's really difficult for the schools. The capacity is short. After the day, we started to think about what can we do next. So we organised a careers leaders breakfast to actually inspire the careers leaders to be able to tell their young people about this amazing sector. And actually, although I finished the fellowship, next month we've got a teacher encounters event where I've got 10 teachers coming to Watershed for the day, and they are going to learn all about how they can integrate kind of prototyping models and other skills development into the classroom. And part of that is they will then go into the classroom, into what they are teaching, and bring that to the young people. Collaboration. We need a space for employers and organisations to unite. So we provided a space for various people to come and do that work. And actually collaboration was at the heart of everything. I really struggled to initially get into the schools. They are inundated with loads of emails asking for workshops and various other things. So I worked with South Bristol Youth, who are an amazing charity who do loads of work with the schools in South Bristol. Everything from looking at green futures and green jobs, everything to just lots of engagement with those young people. So South Bristol Youth, Bristol Works, who are over with the council, so I worked a lot with them. And what was great about doing those collaborations, it meant that they did all the admin for actually getting the collaborations with those schools. So if you are someone out there that's wanting to work or feels that after this talk, hopefully, that you would like to do work with young people, I suggest making those collaborations because they're so hungry to bring people in, especially within the cultural and creative tech sector. They get a lot of things from construction, they get a lot from banking, and so lots of those kind of more corporate worlds, but actually are really struggling in the creative economy that is largely upon freelancers and SMEs, because we know that time is tight for ourselves as well. And say the feedback from it is that there is a need and they want more and they are craving for more opportunity. Again, from the learnings, I actually can speak really proudly that Watershed is involved in a Connected Futures festival, and actually we're bringing in the workshop pipeline idea with something in school, something here, and then actually them creating something is now happening here, and we've embedded that here at Watershed. And actually in with that, we've even budgeted to allow for cover costs and travel costs. So it's all of these added things that now that we realise need to be there to allow those schools to take part. And the school snapped it up. It's literally within a week I had 4 schools, and actually then I had another 2 schools, sorry Vic, I didn't tell you this bit, ask if they could be part of it, which is amazing. The role of education, it's preparing, but it's lagging quite considerably. Obviously, we understand it's not as easy as sending a letter home for them and off they go. There's a lack of that cross-curricular collaboration, and there needs to be a greater understanding to be able to move forward. There is, for the schools that I've worked in, there's hope. I've got one school that have asked me, it's not come to fruition yet, they actually want me to go in and teach for a term their Year 7 students actually on creative technology. So that there is, especially within the technology kind of subject area, they realise that actually there is a need because it's so forward-thinking and it's so ever-growing, and it's becoming on everyone's spheres a lot quicker, I think, than they realise. The teaching about AI in education is actually growing exponentially. That's for either teachers using it or how young people can use it. And I think all of those kind of conversations are building up and building up. So how can we move forward? I think the only ways to move forward is actually there's a mutual understanding between the sector and also education that both are at capacity. And actually, we need a relationship built on trust that actually when you take your time to organise something, it's going to happen, it's going to be a good standard. And actually, what needs to also happen is that the young people need to come first, and more actual skills development needs to happen within schools, where they're saying, this is problem solving, this is something that's creative, you're using teamwork, because they're doing it all the time, but they're not able to actually put it into words. So, this is dreaming big here. So, in terms of the sector, I understand that taking on an apprenticeship costs money. And actually, it's not easy. There's so much paperwork that goes around it. But actually, we need to think outside the box in terms of actually what we offer young people. I speak a lot about broad impact and deep impact. And you don't have to always have a lot of numbers within the sessions. Actually, what would it mean to have 2 young people shadow for a day just to understand, have a bit of mentoring, be a mentor for someone that's actually studying a certain GCSE subject that might be linked to what you are doing. It doesn't have to be a lot of time. Something I feel really passionately about is that one slow day in your year of work that one day could spark a whole career. Is that we need to think that it's a development opportunity that could make a difference. Our young people are not, the way that they are seen within the city, I would hate to be a young person now, both within education and actually the way that they are viewed within society. And actually we need a greater amount of trust in what they can do, because actually by opening our doors to young people, we could actually create some really exciting things, because actually they are the future. I know it's that cliche phrase, but they are. So we can have scaled up opportunities which might form kind of longer form. So it might be a good kind of work experience program with lots of people where they're getting loads of hands-on experience. But as I say, they can be just a Q&A. With offering an hour and saying, I want to come in to your school or whatever and offer a Q&A in terms of what I do, what it's like to even work as a freelancer within this industry, what it's like to research in this area. And if you're interested in doing anything like that, please come and talk to me, because I would love to open up those doors where possible with the contacts that I've made. I said about it earlier, we need to rethink recruitment strategies for ourselves just as much as for the young people, because so often it will say that you need to know XYZ program, but yet every report under the sun seems to say that we will teach you. That organisations are saying that they will teach you, but things aren't aligning up. We need to rethink those strategies, otherwise we're only going to let the future workforce down in terms of how it can be dynamic and actually allow for greater social mobility, those programs that, or those stay-at-home programs that people might learn or go to certain events, even to go from South Bristol into town to go to something like a hackathon event or something like that, it costs money, and it's the money that's not always there. So we need to actually make more of an effort to go out there as much as just expect people to come to you. Whoa, almost at past. Any questions? Thank you.
Thanks, that was great. So if you have any questions for Frazer, I'm going to pass this mic around. It doesn't amplify your voice in the room, but please speak clearly into it, because then the people who are watching online can hear you. So, who wants to go first?
Firstly, sorry about the phone.
Don't worry, it's
So
cracking
sorry.
ringtone.
Sorry, I was that person, sorry. I'm kind of coming at this from the heritage sector more. So I just wondered how you'd kind of apply some of those ideas more to the heritage sector, which again, when you were saying the creative technologies is different things to everybody in the kind of same way that the heritage sector is. So I just wondered about that, really.
I would say try and follow a similar, where you can go to them on a first instant, I would say is always going to be beneficial. Be in their safe space and for kind of young people in terms of kind of a structured environment before bringing almost out is what I would say. I think that you will be passionate about what you do, and I think that means everything, and that is always a tangible thing for young people in terms of going forward. I'd say be really clear about what the aims are in terms of it, in terms of thinking, in terms of career, like what actually job roles are out there that they can cling on to in some way. There's been a study, and I don't want to say a figure, but I'm going to say around 78%, because I don't know why 78's in my mind, but 78% of where young people have said that it matters for them more about values of work. That could be about it being kind of a mixture of working from home and working in an office. It could be about actually that it's a green job. It could be that actually what it's doing for other people. So, and I think that's pretty amazing in terms of it's not all about money for them. It's like values mean an awful lot. So I'd say come from it from that side of things.
Anyone else? I'm coming.
Thank you. My question sort of follows on from that one, actually, so it felt like the right time to ask it. I was interested to know what your sense was from the young people you were working with around like values and technology and the sort of ethics of this sector. Like, did that come up for people? And maybe for the teachers as well?
Yeah, so it was interesting in phase one when I would say, do you know any examples of or think of examples of creative technology? Almost every single time it was AI. And at the time it was very much a thing, it was a bit of a contentious issue regarding it's going to take over the world, and we still kind of are questioning what it is and how it can fit into our society. And so I think we did have conversations around AI, and in terms of them thinking, what does it mean for them? In terms of values and ethics, I think the issue is that for the technological aspect, is that they were consumers, and they understood that they were consumers, and they enjoyed playing with VR, and they enjoyed kind of playing with things and tinkering around with things, but it didn't necessarily feel as something that they were going to engage with on a deeper level than just being a consumer. So I think that was an interesting kind of stepping stone forward, where it went from playing around, where it didn't matter, into an area of actually this could be for me. when we had Luxor Turner in, again, they spoke quite a lot about, again, AI, and the conversations were started to build around like what it means for the VFX industry. And I remember them saying about basically that at the moment, anything that's made by AI can't go out into the world. And one young person was like, oh, that's good then. So they are aware of it. I don't know to what extent they know and understand kind of the ethics around things beyond stuff taking over the world at this stage. But the groups I worked with from South Bristol Youth, they were specifically groups that they were Green Futures groups. So they were groups that came together to explore green careers in terms of what could be green careers. So for them, and they were slightly older, and so for them it was very much what was on their radar. I don't know if that answered fully your question.
Anyone else?
No.
All the way in the corner.
Thank you. I was just wondering if you came across digital poverty in your project, like so amongst the young you were working with, but also like the perceived idea of digital poverty. Oh, this is not for me because I don't really have the money for it.
Sorry, can you say that again? I couldn't really hear.
Digital poverty. Is that
Digital
something?
Poverty. Oh, yes, big time. Big time. So, set aside from this piece of work, I still do a lot of work with one specific school and in the pastoral side of things, and it's a huge problem. And I think that's where there's always going to be a stumbling block. And that's why it's also really important that there's some of this stuff gets into schools, because there's I know that there's so many families that don't have a laptop that they can even do their homework on. And they're doing homework on one phone that they have between like 4 siblings. It's interesting that going into the workshops, because it was there for them, they're used to having it in schools. They're used to having it kind of come to them. They didn't really say anything about, well, we can't do this at home. But I know there's a lot of work going around in the city to try and get kind of certain programs and like clubs happening that allow people to develop certain skills in school now, whether that be around coding, even Unity. I know Unity, some people have done loads of Unity workshops and things like that. I think it's really interesting as we go into we are in a digital age. And I think people expect as adults that young people have loads of devices and that they just have it at their fingertips. And it's not the case, basically. It's not the case. And I think more work does need to be done. I don't have the answer for it. And actually, schools do a lot with donating devices to families. But obviously, there's often restrictions on those devices in terms of what they can do as well.
Thank you. And just to follow up for that, do you feel like some young people felt like this wasn't for them? Or did you feel like just thanks to the school and the work that the city is doing, it was, it wasn't really a question? Or did you feel some like exclusion, basically? Yeah, so in terms of some of the feedback from the first workshop, in terms of why would you not go into this, what would stop you from going into this as a career, I think representation was a huge thing. They didn't see themselves in it, and it didn't seem tangible, or it just seemed like it was too hard. And I think one of the skills that needs to be developed within young people, and actually I'm going to say 21st century society, is better resilience in failure. And we know that within kind of the cultural sector is that it's full of failure, and it's full of needing to get back up on the horse and carry on, or to kind of problem solve around it. And so that was a problem. I say a problem, it just needs to be worked on, because also even within the education system, because of time is money in terms of getting students ready for exams.
the way that they're taught is kind of this spoon-fed, scaffolded approach, which then makes that they're almost that if they follow it, they can't fail. So they don't learn that kind of, if it doesn't work, how do I make it work? Yeah, so I think representation is a huge thing, as is probably expected.
Anyone else? Yeah.
I remember when I was at school, we learnt music, and music particularly is often thought of as, there is industries and sectors where you can work in that area, but often it's thought of as something as a life skill that you might just enjoy going forward through your life. And I always felt there's other kind of skills which could be defined as creative technology, like dressmaking, cookery, and DIY. And I was just curious if your main remit or the area that you wanted to focus on was purely more in the digital kind of future stuff and work-based stuff, or whether you felt that there was any desire on your part to explore the more lifestyle and traditional kind of like creative technologies, or whether your creative technology definition is not just a compositional kind of like the language, this word, or whether it is a term which means digital.
Yeah, so I think because of the remit of this fellowship, which came from being a MyWorld fellowship, at the moment, it's in the digital and thinking of the future. So for this piece of work, I think it was very much about kind of that collaboration between the cultural and the digital together. However, I think what was integral in that kind of, in both stages, was the range of jobs. So you can, what does it mean to be a producer? What does it mean to be a designer? Yes, that could be designer involved in digital, but actually, what does it mean to have those skills? So I think that it was kind of transferable, but for this project, it was very much on the future.
Yeah, sorry for muddying the semantic water.
No.
Hi, yeah, thanks, Frazer. That's always excellent. I was struck by when you were talking about the skills gaps, how so many of the issues seem to be around language. So whether that was either like the young people knowing how to articulate the skills that they do have in a way that will fit like job specs, and also from the other side, and like how those job specs sort of define what people need. And it also kind of brought back to my mind how like when we did careers stuff at secondary school, when I was at secondary school, even if you looked at like jobs that seemed on paper like really exciting, the way they would describe them would just end up like sucking all the potential interest or joy out of them, because it was like, well, how is this relevant to me? I really struggled to make that connection. And I know you, in terms of a solution, you mentioned like one of the things is potentially like getting teachers to kind of point out when students are using certain transferable skills, for instance. But are there any other solutions you can kind of talk about in terms of how you get past those issues of language?
I'm going to almost put a pin in that to talk about careers fairs. And part of the fellowship, I went on a number of kind of careers fairs, and being involved in those kind of, you're at a table with a tablecloth and like hundreds of people go past you. And this idea of kind of broad impact, lots of young people and deep impact. And I think there's, in terms of inspiring young people, the way that careers is communicated doesn't. It's very stale. It's very old-fashioned, and I think it ends up being like a market that people are just trying to give you flyers. So that in terms of the engagement, in terms of listening and responding, and it feeling like I don't get how this is for me. I think that it's an interesting kind of process. And actually doing some blue sky thinking, like what would it mean for a careers day with a difference, where it's not about people stood behind desks and giving out flyers, but actually it was about doing. What would it mean to have lots of stalls that actually people are, you're not going to just sit there and hear someone talk about it, but actually they go and do it. It doesn't have to be just for creative technology. That would be amazing if they were going to do some wiring or build something or paint something. But actually, on a whole, what does it mean to lay a brick? What does it actually mean to do that? What does it mean to code something, and actually feeling more interactive in a way that feels real, rather than it being, come and do this job. And So yeah, anyway, that was a pin in that. In terms of the language question, and I think, well, actually, Skills Builder Framework, who I had a really good conversation with, are trying to reform some of this work within both career, in terms of organisations and also within education, where it's everything is integrated in terms not just saying, well, this is good teamwork, you are doing these skills, but actually it's about reforming the curriculum to it be skills-based rather than knowledge-based. I don't think that necessarily solves the problem because you still need to get your grades at the end of it, but I think it's just how that integration works. It needs to be deeper than simply, and so I think there needs to be the understanding from everybody about are we doing this thing that we're caring about, the core and transferable, or are we not? And I know you need it, but you're saying it just feels it's just too woolly in terms. So I think it feels like there's an attempt to be in one camp, but the reality it's hard work. Because that's so much harder to actually sift through and understand how people can be different and actually be. How do you grade someone to be good or bad? I like to think that I'm a good speaker, but actually you guys could all think very differently. But actually I might put that in writing. And so it's like, how do we grade that as a thing which then goes into the workplace? How do you actually grade that even when writing it? How do you put that into practice when putting on? Because actually, I'm a good problem solver. How can I communicate I'm a good problem solver in a really authentic way on paper? And I think that's an issue. That's an issue with that. I don't think is easy to solve, or probably can be solved. I don't think there's a solution. There's not a solution to it other than us thinking about how we actually, I think, integrate more. That almost the process, I think it's around the process of getting into industry, getting into whatever sector, whether that be, it's almost that interview process thing, isn't it? How can, we've probably all been there, and it's like, or worked with someone, it's like, how did they get the job? And it's because, yeah, they might be fantastic at saying, I've got these things, and I've done X, Y, Z, but actually that thing put into practice, it feels very different. And I'm not an expert on recruitment, and I'm not an expert in kind of, really in careers, I'm an expert in trying to kind of let young people be the best that what they can be. Yeah, don't think that answered your question, but you've got a bit of rambling from me.
Anyone else? No? No one? I've got a question. You mentioned that society does not have a favourable opinion or something like this on young people. How do you think we get back to a place of trust and empowering young people to be in positions where they can let those skills flourish as opposed to assuming that they can't do something right out the gate?
It starts in the schools where it seems to be that it's more about sanctioning rather than actually achievement. It's about what you've not done right rather than what you have done right. And I know there's a lot of attempt for that to change. And actually, I know that some of the teachers that at the school I work at said that they might chime in today, and it'd be interesting to know what their opinion is. But that is a personal view. I think it starts there. I think it goes in with the media, with how there are issues in terms of what's going on in the world, and I think young people have come at the heart of that. But I think also there's the lack of beneficial opportunity in the community to allow those young people to flourish. Obviously, North West Media Centre is doing some fantastic work. You thought that your ringtone was going to be on like I was like, what's? So I think that is also a thing. It's like allowing young people to thrive in spaces and to show what amazing things that they can do. I think there's also a huge dichotomy between the kind of independent school versus the state school, and the socio-economic gap within cities is only getting wider, and that is not going to be fruitful for anyone. And so that probably goes up to looking at what government are doing, whether that be at local or national level, to think about how it can support young people. Yeah.
Nice. Anyone else?
Yeah, am I right in thinking you did a master's? Am I right in thinking you did a master's in directing, and then what made you kind of want to go from directing into education?
So I'm still directing. So that's like that's what I'd say is my main job. What caused this kind of journey was I was a resident here anyway. I saw the fellowship come up, and I kind of thought, oh, that kind of blends both worlds. Look, I did, when I interviewed for it and I was offered it, I did spend, looking at Vic, who interviewed me, I did question whether to take it, because it was going to be 10 months off kind of the hustle of trying to get creative work and what that could mean. I was going to be had to be here to do that, do the fellowship. It's the best decision I made in terms of my kind of career, in terms of what it's opened up work-wise, in terms of both kind of creative and also in terms of my education work, kind of moving into this kind of consultancy space. But also now, when I go to kind of creative and cultural organisations for possible directing work and asking what you're doing, when I talk about this, I think because of the Arts Council Let's Create kind of banner and all about kind of that public engagement, it's always an area that actually I don't think they're bothered about the play that I've directed or the short film that I've done. That actually they're more bothered about this work. And I think that comes part of being a freelancer, and it's also what I go and try and talk to young people about, is that you don't have to just do one thing. Like, that's not how this works. Actually, there's a real joy in having your fingers in lots of pies, or having all those little pots bubbling away, because actually, like, your week is never the same. And who knows where it's going to take you. This has taken me to Berlin, maybe, touch wood, to do a similar talk. So it's like, I wouldn't have ever had that without this. Yeah.
Anyone else? Any more questions? No? All right, we'll leave it there. Thanks so much. Let's say thanks to Frazer. So feel free to stick around in the space and hot desk if you want to. If you have any more questions about the PM Studio, you can send us an email. What? Yeah, I'm getting there. I've only just started the speech, man. If you have any more questions, send us an email at studio@watershed.co.uk. We also have our monthly social event, First Friday tonight, which is taking place from 5 until 7 here, and we've got a partnership with the Bristol Light Festival, correct? And how many sharings do we have? 4? 6. We have 6 sharings from, related to light. And that's it. Okay, bye.